Okay, so I'm Sharon Mueller. I am the Director of Advising and Policy in Engineering Student Services. I'm going to moderate this Q&A, and I'm going to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves. So Myra, can I start with you?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Myra Rivera, and I advise mechanical engineering students and material science and engineering students as well. Welcome.
Thanks, Myra. Sharina?
Hi, I'm Sharina Sampson. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited for you guys. I advise engineering, I advise Eeks students, joint majors, Eeks and Bio double majors, and I'm also an advisor like everybody else in engineering student services.
Thank you. Joey?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Joey Wong. I'm one of the ESS advisors here. I help advise engineering undeclared students as well as bioengineering students. Welcome.
Thank you. And Marvin?
Hi, good afternoon and welcome. And my name is Marvin Lopez. I am Director of Student Programs here in the College of Engineering and Engineering Student Services in the College of Engineering. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we'll just start with the questions, and I'm just going to ask you, I'll kind of put you on the spot and ask you to answer the questions. So Sharina, I'm actually going to start with you for this first question. And the question is, would mechanical engineering or Eeks, which is electrical engineering and computer sciences, be better suited for robotics? And then after there's a follow-up, what kind of robotics research or internships or classes are there?
So for robotics specifically, you could go into Eeks or Mecci. It really just kind of depends on what you want to focus on in robotics. That's what would make a difference, what direction you would go. If you're interested in AI, artificial intelligence, or machine learning, Eeks might be a better choice for you. But if you're actually interested in controls, in circuitry, things like that, Mecci might be a better choice for you. And keep in mind that those are not necessarily the only places to do courses that are related to robotics and research. So for example, Bioe has some robotics courses and they do some robotics research. Also, biology does some robotics research. So it really depends. The field of robotics is very broad.
Thank you, Sharina. Joey, I'm going to ask you this one. How easy is it to switch majors in the College of Engineering?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the question, anonymous attendee. So the simple answer is that it's not guaranteed that you will be able to change majors in the College of Engineering. So I think the most straightforward answer is that depending on what major you're thinking about changing to, there are certain criterias and things like that that are imposed to be able to allow you to change majors. That being said, we at the College of Engineering in Berkeley here advise that, you know, if you were not admitted to the major that you really want to pursue, and you have been admitted to that major that you want to pursue at other very, very good schools, that we would advise that you strongly consider going to that school for your intended and interested major. Because like I said from the start, there is no guarantee that you will be able to change majors once you're here at Berkeley. Hope that helps answer that question. But depending on what major, there are certain criterias, it ranges. Many have GPA criterias, and that ranges and can be different. It could be 3.0, it could be 3.3, it could be 3.4. So it really depends on what major specifically you're interested in changing to and so forth. If you are here, if you do decide to join us at Berkeley, and after your first semester or during your first semester, you think that, you know, this might not be the major of choice for you, it might not be the right fit, and you might want to consider other options. Well, the best thing at that point to do would be to talk to one of us, your ESS advisors, and figure out what your best options are at that point.
Thank you, Joey. Myra, are students in other majors able to take electrical engineering courses, or can only Eeks students take electrical engineering courses?
It's a great question. So actually, any student can enroll in upper division EE courses because there are no reserved seats. So you can enroll in EE classes. There are a few Eeks classes that do have reserved seating that are limited specifically to Eeks majors and CS majors. So you do just need to double check those particular classes that have the reserved seating, but it is possible to enroll in EE classes.
Thanks, Myra. And Sharina, how do students figure out what their AP exams are going to do for them, specifically for the mechanical engineering major? Where can students find that information?
Right. So we actually have a whole page for exams on our engineering.berkeley.edu page. Laura, would we be able to put the link in the chat for everyone? If we could do that, that will give you the exact link. But generally speaking, if you go to engineering.berkeley.edu and you put in AP exams in the search bar, that should tell you exactly what courses for what tests for AP count for what in Mecci.
Thanks, Sharina. Marvin, what are the benefits of prep? This student is trying to decide whether or not it's worth it to do it.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. I saw that, yeah, Anonymous Attendee has a lot of that same question and lots of other questions. So prep. Prep is fundamentally, the target audience for prep is really students who are first generation, so first in your families to go to college, who may come from backgrounds that are less resourced than others, whose schools didn't have all the AP classes, all the great resources that you see from other schools. And so that is the target audience for prep. Not exclusively, so we do build a diverse, sort of broad cohort of students that can learn from and with each other. So the benefit of prep, actually, what is prep, first of all, is a 3-week program prior to the beginning of the fall semester, where you get to spend essentially a third of your time in class, a third of your time in a design track, a design competition, and a third of your time in professional personal development. So career readiness, personal development, that sort of thing, strengths finders, learning from alumni and so forth. And so that's what you spend your time in. In normal times, we'd be on campus. It's a residential program. This summer will be online. We did it last summer online, and it actually worked out okay. It wasn't fantastic, but it worked out all right, given the circumstances. We'll do it again online this time. And what it really fundamentally does is give you a community, build a community of supportive community that will celebrate you and work with you together, not only during prep or even the first year, but intentionally, we want it to be a community that supports you for your whole 4 years here. So is it worth doing? I myself am a product of a similar program at a different campus from many years ago, and I literally would not be here had I not had a program like it. Many of our students who have gone through the program tell us that it's the best thing they've done in their time at Cal. So I would say, yes, it is definitely worth the benefit. So you apply, if you didn't see that in your conditions of enrollment, conditions of admission in your portal, you still have the opportunity to apply. So if you're interested in applying, you can apply, and we'll consider you once you SIR. So first you commit to campus, commit to Berkeley Engineering, and then we consider your application. So, but I would highly, highly encourage you to pursue it. You might also be considering it relative to other programs on campus. And what I always say is that prep is in engineering, for engineers, by engineers. And that gives you an amazing advantage over programs that may not be within the engineering world. So hopefully that long answer answers your short question.
And Marvin, did you say that any freshman in engineering who accepts their offer can apply to prep?
Yes, they can apply to prep. As I said, we do create a diverse, broad cohort. So apply and tell us why you're interested. What do you bring to the program, and what do you aim to gain from the program? So we do want to be a two-way street, a two-way conversation. But tell us why you want to be in it, what you bring to the program, and we'll consider all applicants.
Thank you, Marvin.
Thank you.
Myra, I think I'm going to ask you this next question. How do you do the 5-year Master of Science program in Eeks? Is it competitive? And what do students need to know about preparing for that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So if you're interested in the 5th year's master's program, which is like a 1-year all-intensive master's program for Eeks, it is competitive because, you know, you are getting a master's program in a short time. So in order to best prepare for that, I definitely recommend that you start thinking about it early. That you try to build connections with your faculty, because you and your faculty would be your professors, because you will need to start identifying letters of recommendation. I recommend you get involved in research, internships, just to really explore to see what it is that you like and don't like, right? So I definitely recommend that you get started early. Obviously, a GPA will be important. I think it's 3.5 is usually the common GPA to get into the program, but it is a competitive program. But you can prepare for it. Just make sure that you start early. You never start early, especially if you know that this is something that you're interested. And I recommend also talking to, you know, your GSIs, so your graduate student instructors, because they are already in a graduate program. So you may just want to get their perspective to see what their experience has been like in a grad program. But yeah.
Thanks, Myra. Sharina, if students want to double major, so that means 2 majors within the College of Engineering, how would they best plan for that?
Well, the first thing that they would do is see their ESS advisor, probably in their freshman year, to kind of sit down and map it all out if they were really thinking about the double. Some combinations of majors are harder than others because some majors have more requirements. So it's all about the planning in terms of like whether or not you want to take on the heavy load, whether or not a double will really suit your needs versus a minor, versus some sort of certificate, versus taking courses just as, you know, on top of your major without any, you know, other thing attached to it. So all of these are possibilities, and you should talk it out with your advisor to see what would exactly be a good fit for you and what your goals actually are.
Thanks, Sharina. And Marvin, can I pivot back to you there are a few prep follow-up questions. Are the classes in prep for unit credit and graded? And what does prep cost?
So prep is free, completely free, whether it's in person or online. And no, the classes are not for units. They're not for credit. So the intention of the classes is really to give you a glimpse and a taste of the rigor of the coursework without the grade, without the pressure of a grade. So they are not graded. They're not for credit.
And what would you say if a student's, we have a question from a Mecci student specifically who is asking, if I'm trying to decide between summer bridge and prep, what would be the advantage of prep for me?
As I alluded to earlier, that, you know, prep is in engineering, by engineers, for engineers. In particular, as a Mecci student, something that I would that I would point out about prep that I think would be especially beneficial to a mechanical engineering student is the Jacobs design track and the maker space, or the maker track that we put on during prep, where students spend 2 hours a day, every day during the program, prototyping a solution to a problem. In normal times, we'd be in Jacobs, in the Jacobs Institute of Design, actually designing and building a prototype. Unfortunately, we can't do that with the online version of the program, but you still spend time designing and coming up with a solution to a problem, which is what engineers fundamentally do. And that you can only do in prep. That does not exist in any other program in summer program on campus. And that's a huge advantage to any engineer, but in particular mechanical engineers, who get us a real sense of what engineers do from problem to solution. And then ultimately you get to pitch your idea to industry on the last day of the program, which is pretty cool, even online. So I think that alone is a great advantage, and as an engineer, getting a sense for and a taste for what engineers really do. You get introduced to the Jacobs Institute of Design, which is also a great advantage. And mostly you build that community within engineering that you stay with the entire 4 years. And that's a huge advantage for any student.
Thanks,
Does that
Martin.
help? Yes.
Helped me. Sharina, what major specific classes can we take as a freshman for mechanical engineering?
Mechanical engineering. The first semester of Chem, Engineering 7, which is MATLAB. There's a SolidWorks course. There's 2 semesters of introductory math. Theoretically, you could pass out of 1 or 2 of those with AP and other exams. And the first semester of physics. And I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, yes. A year of college writing.
Thank you. Yes, in engineering, the curriculum is, of course, very STEM heavy. So engineering students, unless they come in engineering undeclared, because we know their major and they're coming in with a major, they are often starting with major specific courses in their first semester. So Joey, I'm going to put you on the spot again for a change of major question. So how hard would it be for a Bioe to switch to Eeks specifically?
Specifically, okay, so there are certain criterias that is needed to change to EECS. This criteria doesn't change depending on what major you are, so I don't imagine it necessarily to be harder whether you're Bioe or whether you're ME. However, you do have to be in make progress towards your current declared major. So in some sense, some majors may be a little bit more difficult because they don't have as many overlapping courses between EECS and so forth. But for Bioe specifically, the good news is that there are a good number of overlapping lower division engineering courses that can be used towards both majors. So in that sense, I guess it's a little bit, quote unquote, easier. So hopefully that helps answer your questions. But for EECS specifically, there's certain GPA criterias, and there's also certain course requirement criterias. You have to have a certain number of courses done. We can get into specifics with your advisor or with me once we get to that point. But just overall in general, there are certain course requirements and GPA requirements to change major to EECS from Bioe.
And actually, which is, Eeks can be very challenging to change into. And just as a full disclaimer, we have students every year who want to switch to Eeks who are unable to do so. And that's why we do want to be really frank with you that if you have been admitted to a school where you are guaranteed to pursue the major that you really want, we're actually recommending that you go to that school because we don't want you to come to Berkeley and be unhappy with your choice of major and be unhappy if you're unable to meet the bar to change into a different major. That causes a lot of stress for you. And we certainly don't want you to be unhappy at Berkeley. We'd rather you go somewhere where you can really pursue the major that you want and be guaranteed in that path. So Myra, can I ask you, what is the best way for students to get in touch with their advisors, either now or during the school year, and how can they be in touch with their ESS advisor?
Yeah, so that's a super important question. So in order to get in touch with your advisor, you first need to know who your advisor is, right? So you will be assigned an ESS advisor. Usually that is based on your major, or it could be based on the first letter of your last name. You can email your ESS advisor. You will have to go through Golden Bear Advising, which is kind of like part of your orientation program before you can actually start meeting with an ESS advisor. So you will have to go through that first. Once you do that, you can actually start booking an appointment with your ESS advisor. And we have an appointment system where you can book appointments with. And then during the school year, you already have access to that appointment system. You can email your advisor. And usually we also have drop-in advising. So if you really just have a quick question and want to stop by and meet with your ESS advisor, that is also possible.
Thanks, Myra. And if a student wants to do Freshman Edge, which is basically summer sessions at Berkeley prior to starting in the fall, are they able to talk to their ESS advisor to get help with choosing classes? And then how would they connect with their advisor?
Yes. So if you are thinking about taking, participating in Freshman Edge or even taking classes over the summer, we do want to make sure that you contact us, because we want to be super clear that, if you do plan on taking classes, we want them to count, and we want you to understand that summer classes, are a lot faster paced. So definitely reach out to your ESS advisor. You can email us, even if you haven't completed Golden Bear advising yet, just because it's important that we talk about your summer selection. In order to find out who your ESS advisor is, you can go on our engineering page and you just, you can hit the search bar and just look up ESS advisor. Perfect, I see the link on there. And then based on your major and your last name, you can find out who that is.
Thanks, Myra. And Joey, I'm going to ask you this one because you advise Bioe students. How hard is it for a Bioe student to double major with the Haas School of Business or with computer science and LNS?
Sure. So, whenever you talk about, whether it's a simultaneous degree or a double major, it goes without saying that it will likely be more coursework and more work. It's just in general for two majors. So, whether that's easy or not, we really don't know until you really get a good sense of how Berkeley and how Berkeley courses go and how a semester at Berkeley feels for you. I know there's a lot of talk, with freshmen regarding simultaneous degree, double majors, and that's totally fine. That's totally great that you have so many interests to explore. But what we want to do is we want to explore those and not necessarily go in with a mindset saying I have to double major in something, whether it's Haas or CS or whatever. So that's first approaching it with the right steps and pace and figuring out whether the semester and courses at Berkeley lends itself for you to be able to pursue a double major or simultaneous degree to begin with. Would take time, right? So, again, after you've enrolled and taken some courses during your first semester, and as you progress through the first semester, at the end of that first semester, if you feel like you want to take on more and explore more, that would be a great time to kind of sit down with your ESS advisor after that fall of 2021, this fall, to really kind of hash out a plan. Hey, I want to explore Haas. Should I enroll in UGBA 10, this introductory business course in the spring? Those type of conversations probably should happen, towards the end of fall semester.
Thanks, Joey. Sorry, my questions just jumped around on me. Sharina, if we want to take classes this summer and be able to transfer and actually apply the credits to requirements, would we need to take them at UC Berkeley, or could we take classes at community college perhaps?
Yeah, so it really depends on the course that you're taking and the requirement that you're trying to fulfill. But generally speaking, there are lower division requirements that can be fulfilled at a community college. And you can take them at Berkeley, at a community college. But the bottom line is just check with your ESS advisor to make sure that those courses are transferable and that you're kind of going in with open eyes in terms of like what that looks like on your transcript and all of that stuff.
Thanks, Sharina. And Myra, I'm going to ask you this one. If we want to focus on computer science, what's the difference between doing it through the College of Engineering and the Eeks major, or doing it through Letters and Science and the CS major?
Great question. So content-wise, the requirements are the same for Eeks and CS. So you'll be taking similar classes. If you want to focus on CS classes as an Eeks major, you still can. because you'll have to take 20 units of upper division courses, but you get to choose what those classes are. So if you decide that you only want to take CS classes, right, you have that flexibility. So you kind of get to pick and choose your own classes. If you decide maybe you want to do a mix of both CS, EE, or Eeks classes, you can also do that. The biggest difference to consider is, you are presumably admitted into the College of Engineering, so you would be pursuing the Eeks major. If you were thinking about computer science, that would mean that you would have to change out of the Eeks major, out of the Eeks major and out of the College of Engineering and into a different college. But content-wise, it's pretty much the same. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Myra. Sharina, when is Golden Bear advising for freshmen?
It starts in June. So generally speaking, you're going to get notifications, and it should take, I don't know, about 2 to 3 hours to complete. And it's pretty comprehensive. So what ends up happening at the end is after asking you a series of questions, it will spit out a possible schedule for you, which also comes to us. So then we can talk about it after you've completed GPA.
Thank you. Joey, what's the best way to prepare for entering Berkeley in the fall semester?
Oh, Lordy. That's a big question. How to prepare for Berkeley, basically college. That's a good question. Well, I would say that first, probably, depending on where you're, what region you're coming from or what type of school or whatnot, is to get into a mindset of being very, very flexible and adaptable, because this whole past year has taught us that that is a key trait in this higher education landscape. Right now, we're going into fall semester. There are a lot of logistics and things that are still being figured out in terms of how the fall semester is going to be presented, whether it's going to be, big lectures that are online and things like that. So, you want to be really, really adaptable and flexible in how the school is going to inevitably be adaptable and change to the situation, whatever it may be in the coming fall semester. I know that might be opening up a can of worms and a lot of other questions, but I think that's just the general sense. And coming in with the mindset of being, being able to take this first semester, this fall semester, as a learning experience, as a time that you'll need to transition from high school to college, on top of a layer that other freshmen have not had to deal with in the past, and because it's gonna look very, very different. Because last fall, they also had to go through an unprecedented entering of fall and change, but this fall is going to be unprecedented and different as well in a different aspect or a different range. So for now, students are expected to be on campus, right? So, and how that will look will vary depending on the situation. So again, just coming into fall, being very, very flexible, adaptable, willing to learn and take the time you need for this fall semester to transition from high school to college in a very, very difficult environment in terms of public health sense wise. Hopefully that helps. There's no magic bullet or pill that you take to be ready for college. We'll put it that way. But yeah, you'll be ready. Well, we have resources here across the college, across the campus, to help with the process. That's what college is all about. So,
thanks, Joey. Sharina, how difficult is getting into the courses you want? Does student standing affect course registration time? And is there a limit on the number of courses or units you can take each semester?
Okay, so that's a lot of questions.
The first one was, how hard is it? I'll start. How hard is it to get into the classes that you want?
Okay.
Go ahead. I'll let you answer that
Okay,
one.
so in terms of the courses you want, okay, so there's always a chance that courses will fill up. So there's never a guarantee that you're going to get into the course that you want. However, that being said, there are a number of seats that are kind of put aside for freshmen. So the chances of you getting the courses that you need and graduating on time are super, super high. We graduate the large majority of our students within the 4-year time frame. So just keep that in mind. People aren't delaying graduation because they can't get the courses that they need to get into. So I think the last part of your question was, are there enrollment limits for any given semester? So any given student, their enrollment limit for undergraduates is 20.5 units. Can you do more than that? Well, we wouldn't recommend it for your freshman year, but if you have a high enough GPA, and if you're showing drive, certainly that's something that you can petition the college for. The minimum amount is 12 units, unless you have an extenuating circumstance. So what was the other question?
The other one was about what determines your place in enrollment. Is it, I'm a senior, I get to enroll the first day. I'm a freshman, I'm enrolling the last day. What determines where students are in the enrollment process, in their enrollment appointment?
So the amount of units has some effect on when you get to sign up for courses. But ultimately, the Office of the Registrar assigns you a date for enrollment. And once they've assigned it, you can't really petition it.
And it is by terms and attendance.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you.
It's by it's by terms and attendance now.
Yes.
So yes, the longer you are at Berkeley, the sooner you're going to register. But for fall 21, all freshmen across the campus are actually going to enroll on the same day in mid-July. Thanks, Sharina.
Was that everything?
I think that was it.
Okay.
So Joey, I'm going to ask you this question because it's asking about pre-med, which I know some of our Bioe students are pre-med. If students have been able to fulfill some of the pre-med requirements with AP work, is it recommended that they still take the course at Berkeley, or can they use the AP for pre-med?
Yeah, sure. So that's a kind of a trick question. So in what we've found that in terms of students who are doing Bioe majors, who are doing pre-med, which is probably the biggest major in the College of Engineering that is population that is pursuing pre-med, we find that they do repeat some of the courses that they've passed out of through AP. Not all, but some of the courses. For example, some students would have already passed English R1A requirement, but the pre-med prerequisite clearly requires 2 semesters of English. So what you could do is take English R1B, the second half of our reading composition requirement, and then take another course, whether it's in rhetoric, comparative literature, English, that would also work. It doesn't have to be the course that you satisfied already with RNCA, AP credit, if that makes sense. And then for other subjects like math, the AP can pass you out of Math 1A, 1B. But for engineering majors, you have more math to take. So you'll still need to take 53 and 54, which are also calculus-based math. So that in itself would be enough for that 1 year of calculus-based math for pre-med. Chemistry, students will usually retake here at Berkeley, and things like physics even students would retake here at Berkeley to be for pre-med prerequisites. So, you want to picture it this way, right? So most medical schools will probably want you to have that course taken at the college level. Some may allow you to use AP to satisfy some pre-med prerequisites, but that obviously kind of decreases your number of medical school options, right? So in order to increase your odds of being eligible to all medical schools, the best way to do that would be to retake some of those courses that you've passed out of through AP.
Thanks, Joey. Myra, I'm going to ask you this one. Can AP Literature get me past the full year of college writing, which we call reading and composition? And I'm assuming the student means a score of 4 or 5 on the AP Literature exam. Can that fulfill the whole full year of reading and composition?
No, it can't. Sorry. You have to take, so it can fulfill your reading and composition A portion. So you need 2 reading and composition classes. We refer to them as like your R1A and your R1B class. So if you get a 4 or a 5, it can fulfill the first part of it, but you will still need to do the second part of reading and composition.
Thanks, Myra. And this is related to AP, Sharina. I'm going to ask you this one. What's your opinion on whether it's better for students to use their AP credit and go on to the further level courses? Or should they actually take the courses at Berkeley even though they AP'd out of them? And how should they decide?
Yeah, it can be hard to decide. So I guess it depends on what course that you're talking about. So if we're talking about the math courses, where a lot of people, I feel like this is a struggle that a lot of people have deciding. If you have a 4 or 5 on math AP, do you go on? As part of GBA, you actually you can take exams from the math department that can gauge your comfort levels with the exam material. So if you decide if you've taken the math BC AP exam, if you've gotten a 4 or 5 and you take the exams on Golden Bear Advising and you feel like you're comfortable with the material, then yes, you should probably move on. If you feel like there's concepts that you're missing, maybe it's a good idea to review those concepts by taking the course, or maybe it's a good idea to review those concepts during the summer before you come to Berkeley. That's just one example, right? I think Joey, when he talks about chem, the chem AP for people who are doing pre-med, the large majority of pre-med students take chem here, even if they've AP'd out of chem. So again, it really, really depends on the course that you want to AP out of or exam out of, and the major that you're in, and how much comfort you have with that subject.
Thanks, Sharina.
Just want to
go ahead,
point
Joey.
out, heads up with all these questions with AP exams, that it's important to note that it may be different from college to college, even within Berkeley. So you may be talking to a friend who's in the College of Letters and Science and got a 5 on AP Lit and said, I don't have to do any reading composition. So that's very, very different than students within the College of Engineering. So it's important to keep that in mind, that the AP exams and units and transfer credit can vary from college to college. So it's important to look on our website, make sure you understand what translates to what, because many students in other colleges have different rubrics.
Yes, good point, Joey. Thank you for pointing that out. Marvin, I have a question for you. If a student wanted to do prep, would they still be able to take a community college course during the summer? Would that be possible to do both?
So, considering that it's online, it could literally be possible. So you could theoretically do prep online and then a community college course online if you squeeze it in between sessions and such. However, it all boils down to energy, right? And the energy that we all have to spend in the things we do. And if you do prep when we want you to, if you do prep and you're enrolled in prep, we want you to be engaged and committed to prep. Obviously, if you enroll in a class, we want you to be engaged and committed in that class. And you have to be honest with yourself. Can you really give the energy to both and really be ready, as Joey mentioned, be prepared for the fall at Berkeley? So I would say that given those two questions, it's not likely that you would. And so we highly encourage you that if you do prep, you stay with prep. If the purpose to take a community college class is just to get ahead and knock out some classes early, there's no rush to get out of here. Don't rush your time here. The part of the experience is being through your classes from the beginning. So if you're doing prep, I would much prefer that you stay in prep and only focus on prep, and the rest will follow. So, but theoretically, literally, it could be doable, especially online.
Thanks,
Another
Marvin.
long answer to a short question.
Good answer. Myra, can incoming freshmen take a community college course that's transferable to a lower level Berkeley equivalent and get that requirement fulfilled by taking that community college course?
So short answer is yes, it is possible. So you can actually only transfer lower division credit from a community college. If you are thinking about taking classes over the summer at a community college, you definitely want to make sure you check in with your ESS advisor. If you're taking classes at a community college that's within the state of California, we do have articulation agreements that we can double check and walk you through. But I think the most important part is that you definitely need to talk to your ESS advisor, because we do not want you to spend your money and time in the summer. And then it turns out that, the classes that you took are not going to fulfill requirements, right? So rule of thumb is just check in with your ESS advisor so we can take a look at the classes you plan on taking.
Thanks, Myra. And Sharina, I don't know if you want to take a stab at this one, but can you discuss grading curves for classes in the College of Engineering? Is there a strict curve? Is that consistent across the board? That's a hard question.
So our curves are definitely not consistent. Some departments enforce the curve more than others. Some courses enforce the curve more than others. So it really is very course and department specific, and it really depends on the culture of the department that you're going into. I would say if you're going into Eeks, yeah, most of those courses are graded on a curve. Not 100%, but most of them are. And they just have to have a lot of courses. Mecci has an enforced curve. So the large majority of their courses are graded on a curve. I can't speak to other departments as I don't know them as well, but.
Thanks, Sharina. Sorry for giving you that hard question. And I just wanted to acknowledge, I see that there are a few questions about the MET program. And it is true that the MET program is going to be considering applications from continuing students, but I don't want to say the wrong thing. There are a lot of nuances with that. So Laura, if you wouldn't mind just putting in the chat the link to MET, because there is an FAQ on there that's very thorough. And I really think that's a better source than we are, probably, because that's updated very regularly by the MET program folks. So I just want to refer those MET questions to that FAQ. And I think they have an email address too, if you have further questions about that. Let's see. I will ask this one of Sharina, since you advise Eeks students. How is the workload to complete Eeks in 3 years? Is that doable? And what does that look like semester to semester?
So it's completely possible to complete your Eeks degree in 3 years. Really, it's a 3.5, curriculum. So if you do want to load up your semester and take heavier semesters, definitely 3 is possible. You're looking at least 3 technicals a semester to complete that particular track.
Thank you. And Myra, earlier there was a question from students who are wondering, can I take a community college course to fulfill a requirement during the summer before I come? And there's a follow-up question. Would that affect their freshman status? Would they still be considered freshmen if they take courses at community college this summer?
So if you would still be considered a freshman when you start at UC Berkeley. The only difference is, you just have a few more units that are going to be transferring over, but you'll still be considered a freshman. It won't change
Thank you.
anything.
And I'm just going to ask a question that's related to that. Can Berkeley students take community college courses during the fall or spring if they're also enrolled at UC Berkeley? Can Berkeley engineering students take courses concurrently?
No, you cannot. So if the UC Berkeley, our program really is designed for you to take classes here at UC Berkeley. You'll be awarded a UC Berkeley degree. We want to make sure that you're taking the classes here. During summers, it's okay, but during your fall and your spring semesters, we expect you to do your coursework here.
Thank you, Myra. Joey, is it possible for a major in Mecci to do a minor in computer science?
Yes.
In other words, is it possible for a student who has a major in the College of Engineering to do a minor that might be in a different college altogether?
Still yes. So that's a short answer. So yes, it is possible for you to major in ME and minor in CS. Yes.
Thank you.
Most minors are about 5 to 6 courses, and you would ideally fit them in and sprinkle them in as you progress through your 4 years, starting with either freshman or sophomore, taking those introductory type minor courses and seeing if you like it. If you do, continuing on. If you don't, hopefully it informs your decision.
And is there any kind of overlap rule, or like what if an Eeks student wants a CS minor? Can they do that?
That would be a no-no. There are certain restrictions, and the usual minor major overlap rule would be 1 upper division course between the major and the minor.
Thank you, Joey. Marvin, do you know what are the dates for prep this year?
Oh, great question. It's the last week of July and the first 2 weeks of August.
All right. Thank
Be
you.
relative and not absolute, but it's the last week of July, starting that Tuesday through the second Friday of August.
Got it. So it's right before Golden Bear orientation is when it ends.
That's right. The Friday,
Okay.
It ends the Friday before orientation. Absolutely.
Okay. Sharina, how realistic is it for an engineering student to study abroad?
We actually encourage our students to study abroad. It really depends on where you want to go and what you want to do abroad, but definitely there are a ton of opportunities to do that. We even have internships abroad if you want to go over the summer. And yeah, I would guess that like if you want to do technical courses abroad, that takes a little bit more planning because not every school abroad has the technical courses that are going to count towards your degree. But if you're just wanting to get a cultural experience, maybe take some language classes, some history courses, you can do that almost anywhere. And so we definitely want you to go abroad and get that experience. And you should talk to us about it if you're interested.
Thanks, Sharina. So kind of going back to the AP question, and Myra, maybe I'll pick on you for this one. So if a student, say, took AP chemistry in sophomore year, that was a few years ago, would we recommend that they use that to fulfill Chemistry 1A, or how should they decide if they should take chemistry or not?
I would recommend that, if it's been a while since you took chem, AP Chem, let's say, a lot of your classes will have, and also depending on what major you are, a lot of your classes will have chem as either a prereq or just a class that you're expected to fulfill that, will be required, and it's expected that some of the material, right? So if it doesn't feel like you remember the material, I would recommend taking the class. Ways that you can figure out whether or not you're familiar with the material. It is possible to look up, course syllabi online. UC Berkeley usually has a pretty good selection of course syllabi online. So maybe just take a look at some of the topics. I do believe that during Golden Bear advising, and I think another ESS advisor can correct me if I'm wrong, we will go through, what you should be doing if you already took AP credit, if you are familiar with some topics, if you're not familiar with some topics, and then based on your answers to Golden Bear advising, we'll recommend whether or not you should actually probably take the class.
Thanks, Myra. Joey, is the entry-level writing requirement the same as the reading and composition requirement?
No.
Do you want to expand upon that?
So they're not the same. They're two different requirements, and entry-level writing requirement can be satisfied through AP language or literature exam with a I believe 3 or higher. But if you want to satisfy reading composition requirement, you would need at 4 or higher, 4 or 5. So there are two different requirements. If you didn't satisfy entry-level writing requirement, there are also exams. I think analytical writing exam that the college offers for you to take to help satisfy that entry-level writing requirement. If you've come and you don't want to take that exam, or you do not pass that exam, there is a college writing R1A course that's 6 units that can satisfy both entry-level writing requirement as well as that first half of reading and composition requirement.
Thank you, Joey. And Sharina, we keep getting this question, so I guess we should answer it again live. What does a 4 or 5 on either of the AP English exams fulfill the entire year of reading and composition for College of Engineering students?
No.
Thank you.
I pulled a Joey. So in the College of Engineering, an exam score can, and a high enough exam score can only fulfill the first part of reading and comp. That's different from college to college. So if you're talking to your friend in a different college, it might fulfill the whole thing. But in the College of Engineering, it's only the first part that it can cover.
Thank you. Okay, Joe, I'm going to ask you this one, even though it's not really, it's more of a housing question, but do you recommend any dorms for engineering students, or are there particular dorms that tend to attract more engineering students because of their location, maybe?
Yeah, so it really depends on what you are interested in and what you like. I personally stayed at Foothill my freshman year. And Foothill is regarded as the dorm that's closest to kind of the engineering corner. So along with Foothill, there's Stern that is on that northeast side of campus, which is where a lot of the engineering buildings are. So, but I don't necessarily want to recommend a dorm just because of its proximity to the engineering buildings, right? Because different dorms lends itself to different living experiences and environments. So if you're used to, having I guess maybe busier type of dorm experience, or you want a more busier dorm experience that's closer to a lot of South Side kind of restaurants, shops, and things like that, then you could very well be more happy in that environment, in a Unit 1 or Unit 2 or Unit 3 experience than a Foothill experience, if that makes sense. So it's hard to really have a recommended dorm, but you just kind of have to look at the housing campus and map, see where the dorms are kind of located, and get a sense of where you would want to, which area you would want to be in. I think that's better, probably.
Can I add on to that really quickly?
Yes, absolutely.
So I feel like a lot of students kind of assume that if they're in the engineering dorms, that all of their courses will be near their dorm. That's actually not true. During your freshman year, for your first couple of years, your courses will likely be all over campus. So you're not really giving yourself an advantage in any way in terms of location and space between, or the length of space between you and your courses your freshman year.
Thanks, Sharina. Yes, very true.
And I think I saw another housing question in the Q&A about WISE, W-I-S-E
Yeah.
theme program. So the short answer is obvious. I don't want to answer that because in terms of housing logistics, it's been completely kind of upended and uncertain due to the public health situation. So for example, WISE, the theme program for engineers, women in science and engineering, is usually housed in Foothill. But this past year, I believe it was in Unit 2. And going forward, whether it's Stern or another unit, I have no idea at this point. And that it's really hard for us to know at this point, I think, because housing, the logistic part of it has just been so all over the place because of the public health situation.
Yeah, still a lot of uncertainty there for sure. I see that we're at our time. Laura does have first of all, I want to thank the panelists. Thank you for joining us. And I want to thank the students. This was recorded. And I see that there are quite a few questions still about AP and IB credits. Laura is actually going to put up a slide right now. Thank you, Laura. That just summarizes all of the links we talked about today. And so any questions about exams, you should be able to get the answer in that first link right there. And thank you so much for joining us. We can leave this up for another 30 seconds or so in case you want to take a picture of those websites. Thank you so much. It was a smaller group today than Saturday, so I was pleased that we got through more of the questions than we did on Saturday. And we hope that you will choose Berkeley Engineering. And don't you want to be part of this team? It's so fun. And we, really want to support you in making the right decision for you. And go Bears. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.